and rotten movie game. Now it's time, I really hope it isn't lame. Please, let's go, I totally can't hit this note. I can't falsetto anymore. It hurts my balls, hurts my balls. Actually, he names the flicks and the gang makes flicks mad. Actually, he's a schlubby guy, and when he drops by, the gang has to guess. Do the critics' scores make it rotten or fresh? Actually,
Brian Grazer's here. We're going to play the Rotten Tomatoes game with Brian. Brian, the Rotten Tomatoes game is Matt Atchity over there is the brains, more the face.
The brawn.
And the brawn behind Rotten Tomatoes.
I will preface to Brian that any movie that's ever been called rotten, it's not my fault.
Okay. All right.
He aggregates. That's all he does is collect.
I'm just the messenger.
He gets the reviews from all around, puts them together. They give it a score, and we try to guess the scores, percentage-wise, 0 to 100, of the movies, and we pick a theme each week. So if you'd like to play along with that, it's pretty evident how the game works, and then we can talk about the book. By the way, available now on Amazon. Is it in paperback now, right?
Paperback, 9th edition. Yeah.
Brian, I tell you, I found his path to success so inspiring, and so also it's just he just went out and got some. Like I mean, chutzpah, I think they call it, is basically. It's funny. Everyone now there's all this talk about grit. But in a weird way, maybe we should be talking chutzpah.
Yeah, we had it first.
Because, the Jews invented grit. It's like, how can I be gritty from my sofa? I think it's called chutzpah. I'll just pick up the phone and yell at somebody. I need air conditioning.
That was the original title of the John Wayne movie. It's True Chutzpah.
True chutzpah. I want this notion of, like, when you think grit, you think, like, pushing out one more push-up or running on the beach, holding a log over your back with Navy SEALs or something like that. But you don't think talking to people and picking their brain and, saying, I'll do that, or can I come along, or can I watch, or do you need some help with that? You don't think of that as grit.
Right.
It's chutzpah that we're really, like, what you did was chutzpah, right?
Chutzpah, or resourcefulness.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't call it grit either. Grit is a different thing. It's weights, lifting weights, doing hard things, pulling tractors. Yes. Yeah, that's a grit oriented.
Yeah, and grit is good, and it'll always guarantee that you're working, because if you're not scared of a little hard work or working out in the sun or a hot day or whatever, it's good. You'll be gainfully employed. But to be really successful, I'd rather my kids have chutzpah than grit.
Good.
Yeah, it's the Jewish grit.
I got it from my grandmother, my little tiny Jewish grandmother.
She had it.
She had it, and she told me I had it. I was about 7 years old, and she said, "You're basically, your superpower is curiosity, and with curiosity you can figure anything out." Basically, she said, "I have chutzpah, you're gonna have chutzpah." She was, I think, 4'9", tiniest little thing, and she was my real only champion.
And what Brian did is geez, I can't remember if I was talking about this on there, but what Brian would do, or at a certain point, this is how the book came out, A Curious Mind, The Secret to a Bigger Life. Brian would just start having meetings, sitting down with people who he thought were interesting and had something to offer, information, something to offer him, curious about.
Yeah, I was going to be curious about their process. What drives them? How do they get to where they are? Where do they think they are? Just every aspect that involves perspective on their life and their career. So I would gain a lot of intellectual intelligence and emotional intelligence from each one of these conversations I would have. And
so the crazy thing is, when I was interviewing Brian about a year ago or whenever the book came out, he was saying
it's our anniversary, by the way.
It's our anniversary?
It's almost exactly a year. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think someone owes me a tennis bracelet because I've been putting out, and I just seen that your films have grossed over $14 billion. So you'll be buying lunch, or $13.5 billion as well.
Come on.
5 days ago to nearly exactly a day. Yeah. So I was sitting there and I was saying to Brian, so what would you do? And he'd say, well, if there's somebody I thought was interesting or I was told was interesting or something like that, I'd set up a meeting and just sort of pick their brain. And I thought, well, that's genius. And then I went, wait a minute, I had a meeting with you like 15 years ago.
Exactly.
And somebody was like, Brian Grazer wants a meeting. And I was like, he does? He's got me. I'm going to play part in a movie, or wants to write a movie, or
Apollo
make a
14.
movie. And like, where is he? Yeah, and it's like, he's out in Century City, I think, probably still there. And they said he wants to meet with you, and I was like, holy crap!
Head spinning.
And so I went to Brian's office. I was sort of new to the business. This could have been 20 years ago.
It's more like 20 years ago because I'm now in Beverly Hills. I've been there about 15 years. It's 20 years ago.
But you were in Century City.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
So it had to be
100%.
18 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in Brian Grazer's office, and I'm like, oh, my God, what are we going to talk about in this meeting? And it was great, too, because like on cue, Ron Howard popped in. But not as Ron Howard, just as a guy who worked with Brian. Like, just popped in and went, where do you want me to put the scripts? Or did you read this something? And it's like, hey, hi, how you doing? And then he left. I was like, Ron Howard.
That's a weird moment.
Yeah, and then Brian and I talked for about an hour about not much.
Return arrows and dogs.
I complained. And then I left going, I still have no idea why we had this meeting or what he wanted. And then I never heard anything ever again. And I kept thinking, was there some movie, was there some role that he had me in mind for and then decided I was no good for it? And then later on when he wrote the book and said he would just talk to people he thought were interesting, I realized
that's your disappointing answer.
That's what happened, right? I think
Yes.
your girlfriend at the time, I think, told you, hey, you should talk to this guy or something like that. And it was me.
Actually, what a memory. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I only
Because
remember.
weren't you? What was the show you were doing?
I was doing Love Line.
I was going to say Love Connection, Love Line, and she did. She said you got to check this guy out, which I did, and I thought I have to meet you. It was I just became like I thought what you were doing was really genius. Was kind of present on target, what kids and everybody wanted to know about, and said I have to meet you.
So you continued to do this in adulthood, meeting with people.
Oh yeah.
You know what you need?
I've done it for 30 years, actually.
You
yeah.
need an orange windbreaker with rainbow tape on it that says, we will not be doing any business together.
Caution sign.
But you should still be flattered by this engagement. And
Enjoy.
no, because I was sitting there the whole time going, we're making a movie,
When's the
right?
offer
What
gonna
else?
come?
Why else does Brian Grazer call you into his office?
Look interested, but don't look too interested.
Wow, that insight is so brilliant. I love it. I never even thought of it from that perspective, like that an actor would think, well, okay, what's happened? What's going to go down? Like I met Jeff Bezos. He didn't say join my Amazon, but
Right.
He just thought we'll do it. We'll have a meeting. I wish I would have said, do you need an assistant? But in any event, so with you, I didn't realize that was the perspective. That's fantastic.
Well, yeah, it's awesome.
But I should have
over the
said, I'm
moon.
sorry, there's no job involved. I just want to meet.
Yeah,
Started
that's how the second warehouse. That's how I paid for it. I'm not getting gigs with Brian Grazer. Yeah, well, it's weird because in your mind, you're Brian Grazer, the human being, and in everyone else's mind, you're Brian Grazer, the producer.
Right.
So you're calling people in as a human being,
Yes.
and they think they're being called in.
Called up to the majors.
Called up to the majors, right?
Right.
Interesting.
They think they're going to be on Empire.
Right.
When I think about chutzpah, like when I literally think of the physical manifestation of chutzpah, it's picking up the phone and making that phone call. Whereas one person might be like, no, I'm not going to call. What am I going to say? What would I even say to this person? Whereas the other person's like, hey, hand me the phone. Let's make that phone call. Is that learned, or do you think you inherited that from your grandma, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both, but I mean, it's something I had to work at because I don't want to make that call.
I think most people don't.
I mean, I'm willing to do it, but it's not something I have to force myself. I create a mechanism saying you got to make that the hardest call, do it the first thing in the morning. So it's something it's learned, more learned than not.
Was there anyone who just didn't take your call, didn't want to meet, Didn't have time. Who are you?
So many people. Oh, I mean, endless amount of people because they don't think they're not caring if I hire them to be on Empire or whatever the 24. They're not. Yeah.
Did you have a white whale, like, I don't know, Brando or someone who you would love to have met with but never got the opportunity? Did went nowhere, maybe?
So you had to pick a white fat guy for your analogy? Couldn't have picked DJ Qualls?
There's been a couple, but
Sam Davis Jr.
but many,
There you go.
a lot of people have taken years, many years. Jonas Salk took 3 years to me.
Sure.
So many of them have
Wow.
taken.
Busy guy.
Yeah.
He's a busy guy
Curing stuff.
carrying polio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but some took a long time, but you were able to reel most. Well, for me, it was later that day.
No, I've had some great ones. Like, actually, oddly enough, I wanted to always meet Lloyd Blankfein because
Who's Lloyd Blankfein?
Lloyd Blankfein is the most prominent CEO in the world of finance, and he's the CEO of Goldman Sachs. So I was giving a speech for Goldman Sachs. They said, "Who do you really want to meet next?" I said, "I'd like to meet and get together with Lloyd Blankfein." And now tomorrow I'm flying to Northern California, to Napa Valley to interview. He asked if I'd interview him, so I am.
And obviously, now that you're a very recognizable name and wildly successful, it helps with the door opening and the meetings. And
It helps, but people still say no.
And
Definitely.
and the other thing too is, it's funny. We always think about it in terms of tough jobs. Like you take a job like ambulance, guys who are EMTs, and you go, oh man, little kids getting in accidents, run over by cars, guys, motorcycle accidents, scraping them off the ground. Like that's got to be tough, man. And then you go, the guy usually says it was, or at the beginning it was tough, but now it's a job, and you try to be professional. But at the beginning it was a difficult thing. But they don't think about it in terms of other things like chutzpah, which is, at the beginning, it's probably hard to just call people and try to set up these meetings. But as you have more meetings, more success, more reps,
Confidence.
and more confidence that's based on doing your job.
Yeah.
We always do it with there's a blue collar version of it, but we don't do it an emotional version of it. But that's what happened with you. It's a little tough at the beginning, but now you have so many success stories in your rearview mirror that it's almost,
That it's all doable. Exactly.
It's all doable.
It's all doable. It's never easy, but it's all doable. And sometimes it takes a while. Often it does take resourcefulness and strategy to get somebody to say yes.
And what I always try to preach to people is the more stuff you do, the easier it is to do things.
Definitely.
And when I told Gary, like, well, pull up Brian's IMDb and let's find out what he's got.
It's quite extensive.
And then after about 700 projects he prattled off, I was like, oh, forget it. Let's just talk about Apollo 13 or Splash or something.
Yes.
So, Brian, the book is crazy. Once again, A Curious Mind. It's so near and dear to my heart. I try to preach. It drives me insane when people, like, when you say something to somebody, like you want to go, how's that work? Or whatever, and they just go, I don't know. Be quiet. Like, who cares? I always think, oh my God, you're dead. You're dead in the water. And I've always said about my kids when they're going, education's important to get them started. In the first 3 years of their brain, I said, look, I've said to my wife a million times, they're either going to be curious or they're not. If they're not curious, we're screwed. If they're curious, it does not matter. We don't need all the tutors and the lessons on the violin. If they're curious, they're off and running. If they're not, God help them. I wish I could instill a little bit of that into them. But if you're not curious, you're screwed.
You're kind of screwed. But it has these other sort of intangibles in that, look, connectiveness is probably the most important thing. Us connecting to one another, connectivity gives life to so many other things. And it's, if you have something to say, something to add when you meet somebody other than just, hey, my name is, if you have something to add that's of interest to them, then all of a sudden you have a deeper relationship than the guy that had nothing to add. And by being curious, there's a really good chance you're going to aggregate some information or knowledge or connections where you're going to have something to add. And as I'm sitting here talking to you, I was thinking about what last time I was here, you gave me, or I got your documentary that you did on Paul Newman, and literally I hopped on a plane and I was able to watch the documentary Paul Newman. Tom Cruise is in it. I happened to be producing a movie with Tom Cruise. I had something to say to him other than just, hey, Tom, great to see you on the set. I was able to say, I saw you in the documentary. You were great, blah, blah, blah. Formula One racing. And all of a sudden we had a real conversation, which adds some depth to my relationship to the star that I want to have a relationship with.
Wow. Thanks for watching the doc, by the way.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, good. Brian Grazer says great.
New DVD covers.
Yeah. Get rid of all the other ones that said Leonard Moulton said it sucked. I don't even know why. I don't even know why we printed those up.
It was a mistake from the beginning.
We should have never made 2,000 units of those. It was a huge mistake. We got Grazer now. Or just cross out the Leonard Moulton one and put Grazer
do it by
in.
hand.
Oh, we'll do a little sticker like those little
Right.
stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, smart.
Redacted.
That's awesome. What did Cruz say? Did he have anything? I wonder if he's seen it.
He hadn't seen it, but he knew
Perfect.
he was.
Now hold on.
He broke a pencil.
Everything
the world
is
has come
balanced.
back into
Yeah.
focus
Yeah.
again. I was off kilter for a minute with Brian Grazer seeing it, but now the Cruz hasn't.
No, but he might have seen it now. I don't know, because I gave him a lot of love on it because I thought it was really cool, and I learned more than I had ever known about the world of that that culture, and the fact that I was able to say something about it, that he was great. It was, how much do you know about Formula racing, et cetera, et cetera. I think he probably has watched it by now.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah, I landed in Atlanta, went right to a set, told him about it.
What? That then begs the question. I don't know how much you can talk about, but that was about a year ago, or right on about a year ago. Set in Atlanta. God, it seems like they're doing a lot in Atlanta. Is it because they're huge studios? I mean, are there tax breaks or whatever? But are they building massive studios in Atlanta?
I think it's mostly just a state that is really eager to work in the entertainment business. So there's a lot of teamsters, there's a lot of teams that can work on movies right away.
Wish we had one of those.
And yeah,
Those states?
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah, it's so sad that Tom and Brian, Brian takes a plane back from Atlanta. Cruz takes a modified motorcycle at a high rate of speed without a helmet.
That was in the movie.
He had to be. Yeah, what kind of bike was he riding? What was this movie? Is it out? Is it coming out?
It's coming out. It's called American Made. It's a true story of a CIA agent named Barry Seal that was just pre-Iran-Contra, and it gave life to what the Iran-Contra incident was all about. And actually, he was Barry Seal was a pilot. They got recruited into the CIA. While he was in the CIA, they sent him to Colombia, and they said, "Okay, what in Nicaragua? See what's going on here. We're in the CIA. Check everything out. By the way, get to know Pablo Escobar," which he did. And without the CIA knowing, he decided he would smuggle drugs into America and became the biggest drug dealer while he was in the CIA.
Diabolical.
I know this one, and the thing that's
There was a little piece of it in Narcos. He was in it, if that was a series. But yeah, it's a good story.
Cruz plays a professional motorcycle stuntman who's Barry's closest friend. No, what I remember talking to someone about this, and the real Barry Seals, ended up getting taken out in New Orleans or Louisiana or something like that. Is that true?
Yeah, he got taken out.
And he was a heavier set guy, like a bigger guy. He didn't look exactly like Tom Cruise.
Exactly.
That's what I remember
You're 100%
from the story. Yeah.
I'm very excited for this movie because it reunites Tom Cruise with Doug Liman, who did the fantastic Edge of Tomorrow a couple of years ago.
Exactly.
He's been in many great movies, but that was a fantastic movie.
So what is how many days is Ron in the office much, or is he out and about directing everything?
Well, no, he's not directing everything. Well, Ron is, first of all, he seems like he lives right near here in Burbank, but he doesn't. He lives on the East Coast and has been living there like 25 years.
Oh, really?
He just looks and acts like he's still living in Southern California, but he doesn't. Mm-hmm. So right now he's going to be directing the first episode of a series that I'm producing on Genius, the subject of Genius, which you are going to be season 2.
You mean the Stephen Hawking show?
Not the Stephen Hawking. No, the first 10 hours is all on Einstein, of course, beginning in Germany, and all the pressure that Einstein experienced there, and having to flee and everything else, and all of Einstein's accomplishments and love story. All of that is a 10-hour is under the umbrella of genius, and then season 2 will be a different subject, and that's
when I roll
Podcasters.
in.
that's when you roll in.
That's when I roll
right.
in. It's
So
Keith
he's doing
Grip.
that, and then he also directed Inferno, which is coming out, which is the third of the Da Vinci Code, and that comes starring Tom Hanks.
Oh, awesome.
That's cool.
I was, I think I interviewed Clint Howard, and I
the
wonder.
show.
Yes, I think for some reason, I think Clint and Ron will never speak again.
What did you do?
In about 7 months or so, because I think Clint will vote for Donald Trump.
Okay.
Oh my God!
And then
really?
that'll be. I think so.
They could
Like,
they've probably been through worse.
I had that feeling.
probably.
That could be the
could be a
end.
deal
That
maker.
could be the end of the Howards.
You have a sixth sense on this.
6 cents. Yes, thank you. All right, let's. We already played the intro. Let's play the game. And Brian will now. Brian, get a pen because you have to
He's ready.
lock in. Not that we don't trust you, but with your chutzpah, you could easily modify an answer. So we'll
So we all
lock
have to
in
write
our,
it down.
We'll lock in our answers. Go ahead.
All right. So this week we're going to take a look at the cast of a big movie in theaters, the cast of Now You See Me 2. Huge hit when it first came out. This one will probably do really well at the box office as well.
It
How
was
is this not named Now You Don't?
Oh,
I know.
great question.
Was
They
it
really
a
missed
huge? Was it a
opportunity.
huge hit?
Yeah, it did really big box office.
Did.
Great
Directed by
premise.
Louis Leterrier. And
Brian, did you have anything to do with the first one?
Nothing.
Good.
I liked it.
I hated it.
Okay.
so
What studio released it? Lionsgate.
The Lionsgate, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Summit,
Yeah.
Lionsgate,
Yeah,
same
that's
thing
it.
now.
Got it.
All right, so first up, we've got Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg in this series of films, and they've previously collaborated together in a 2009 film that is kind of a spoof of the zombie genre. The movie is Zombieland.
Did we do Zombieland once? I'm
I
asking
don't-
for fairness.
It's not on my
recall.
list
I
that
don't
I've been
recall.
keeping.
He's got a master list.
No,
Yeah, you're just
you
gonna
and
write
I
your
went through
score.
actually. I sent you every
Yeah.
single list.
Okay.
If Agity says no, then we didn't.
All right. So the question is, what did it score on Rotten Tomatoes? What is the
what do you think the critic
basic
score was?
critic score
From
was
0 to 100.
percentage wise? We'll all go first, and
The
we'll
Godfather's
see how
up
this
around
goes.
100, and you know.
Yeah, they. I think the critics like this film. I mean, a lot of violence, which sometimes puts them off
see
a little.
this?
But this is fun violence, and everyone seemed to like
Smart
it
violence, too.
for what it was. So I'm going to say Zombieland gets 86 from the critics.
I said 82, and if anything, I'm low.
82.
I didn't see it. I
Really?
am not sure.
You would like this movie.
Genre. Okay.
Smart.
Oh well. I said 72.
78.
Zombieland is certified fresh at 89%.
I hate this
Oh
game.
my
Oh,
God!
and the people, the man of the people have it at 86, and that's what the people had it at. All right. Everyone's still in there.
All right. Another cast member of Now You See Me 2, Mark Ruffalo, was one of the co-stars in a 2014 film that also starred Channing Tatum and Steve Carell in the true story of a wrestling family and the scion of the DuPont family. The movie is Foxcatcher.
Saw this 3 times.
I enjoyed this quite a bit, and
Can anyone enjoy this movie?
I
That's
don't.
amazing.
It's a great movie, but
I don't. Well,
Gave you the
whatever.
feel-goods.
I enjoyed a movie like a.
you appreciate
seeing
it.
a movie. Well, whatever. But the point
What I'm
is
saying
this.
is that like you enjoy, you
Well,
enjoy
I like
massage.
I like good movies.
Okay.
So I would enjoy a good movie, I guess would be the answer. Even Schindler's List, I enjoyed as a good
Gotcha.
movie.
Humorous romp.
Yeah. All right. So, and also, I think in the slow-moving department, I enjoyed it quite a bit for a movie that moved along at the pace it moved along. And I'm normally when people go, it's a real like it's a good movie, but it's a real slog. I go, count me out. For some reason, even though this movie had little to no pace, I was still there.
Yeah.
Deliberate.
the whole time.
Deliberately paced.
Yeah.
Bette
I
Miller?
didn't fade.
Yes.
I didn't fade off on this one.
Bette Miller.
Steve Carell was great. Everything was great.
He was great. And nominated for Best
I don't know if
Actor?
the should have been if he wasn't. I don't know. I feel like the critics weren't over the moon because of the pace. I'm going to say, but they liked it. I'm going 81.
I said 94.
Yeah, I was trying to make up a little ground on this. I'm going 91.
Okay, I have 2 things. I have a score and I have a a personal story in relation to this movie.
Let's hear it.
You want to hear the story?
Yeah, share the story.
Okay, you want to hear my score first or the story?
Tell us the story, then the score.
Okay, here's the story. 9 years ago, I was in the Amazon for one night with 5 friends, including Les Moonves, Brad Gray, Tom Freston, Graydon Carter. We're in the Amazon for one night. We found out that in the Amazon, this one night, they were having like extreme fighting that was prohibited in America. So all those fighters, those UFC fighters, were from the Tokyo Dome in the Amazon. And so we all go, let's check this out. We were told, okay, you can come check it out. It's really kind of a makeshift operation, but they were doing this, and it started at 12 o'clock at night. We were all drunk already at 12 o'clock at night when it began. It's now 2:30 in the morning, and I'm going, I have to go to the bath, pee. Where do I go, guys? They go out in the bushes out there. I go out in the bushes to pee, drunken on this rum, and a guy comes up to me, which I don't remember, and said, I got a great movie for you. And I'm going, he goes, aren't you Brian Grazer? I am. I go, well, aren't we in the Amazon? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. He says, yeah, but it's this great movie. It's called Foxcatcher. He goes, you got to do it. And I just totally rebuffed the guy because I was kind of I had a couple of belts.
Well,
And-
my feeling is
Excuse me, I'm taking a leak.
when your dick is out, unless it's a dick-centric conversation, like they're admiring it or they want to do something with it, most all other conversations are kind of off the table at
Right.
that point. When the penis is out, I've found.
That's so funny. Okay. So I love it. I wish I would have thought of that. Okay. So
Well, next time, take me with you to the Amazon.
so
and I'll be there.
So now the movie 5 years ago, 5 years from that point, gets made. I get an email from this guy where he's published my rejection. And it's, if you look me up, Brian Grazer Foxcatcher, you'll see a picture of me in this ring where all the guys these people were fighting in this extreme fighting, and there's a circle. He circled my head next to Les Moonves as the guy that turned his movie down. I said, what are you so mad about?
Wow.
I
There
said,
you are.
There I am with a black T-shirt. I said, what are you so mad about? The movie turned out amazing. You didn't need me.
right. And
Wow.
Good. You just did that? Whoever
did
that?
no,
Oh,
Gary
no, up
just
there.
did that. Do you think? Well, we're talking
Anyway,
about
so I gave it an 86.
an 86. All right, let's reboot for 1 second. But I just want to ask Brian Grazer this, because we're talking about his book and motivation and curiosity and stuff. Curiosity is a positive thing. How much is a negative a propellant? Like this guy thinking, I'm going to show Brian Grazer.
Chip on your shoulder type thing.
Yeah, like I went out there to shake the dew off the lily. He didn't give me the time of the day. I'll show him. And
Kick
now
his ass.
he's prepared. Like he's motivated through a negative.
Yeah, through a negative force.
Right.
He felt some way, for some he felt dissed.
Right.
That I couldn't at 3 o'clock in the morning pay attention to a pitch out in the Amazon. And then it's 5 years later, and he's mad as could be, and you see the picture of me circled.
Is he the producer, the writer, the director?
He was one of the executive producers.
Oh.
He's not even the central guy, but
Douchebag.
you know.
All right. So
And this
you
has
said it,
affected-
and you have the power to do that.
And this has affected you not at all, by the way.
I
thought
give
it
it
was
an
crazy.
81.
94 for me.
94.
91.
Brian was 86.
I said
86. Foxcatcher is certified fresh at 89%.
Whoa, who
Take
got
it.
that one?
Nobody on the
Nobody.
dot.
Everyone's
Okay,
close.
Okay.
Yeah.
We take how far you are for each one, Brian, and then we add up the total, and whoever's the closest, has the smallest score at the end. So
Golf.
everyone's in
Lowest
it.
score. It's funny. The people have it 66 in this one, which means they couldn't hang with
I think it
as,
turned
as
off a
much.
lot of casual
yeah,
movie
it's a little
fans.
slow. All right, here we go.
All
Got
right,
a nice
next
close
up,
score going.
We've got another star from Now You See Me Too, James Franco, who co-starred with Vince Vaughn, who
Dave
played
Franco?
James Franco.
Dave was in
I'm
it.
sorry, Dave Franco.
Yeah.
You're right, Dave Franco. Get the Francos
Good
mixed
job,
up.
Brian.
Yeah.
Good.
Dave Franco co-starred with Vince Vaughn, who played a small business owner who goes with his 2 associates, Dave Franco and Tom Wilkinson, to Europe to close the most important deal of their lives, 2015 Unfinished Business.
I'm not familiar. Anybody?
Yeah, it was a Vince Vaughn. This is one of those movies that
15%?
you couldn't escape. Like they just kept pushing, and now it's all over
it down.
cable, and it's like nobody liked it, and they just kept going with it. Like they're like,
Yeah.
you're gonna see this movie. It's on cable 15 times a night, and it's just nobody wants to see it.
They need their money back.
All right, I don't think anyone liked it, but then of course it's got to be rotten. But is it 37% rotten or is it 11% rotten? I am going to say Vince Vaughn is so good. I mean, he's just so good on camera. You got to give him a couple points just for Vince Vaughn.
So 2? Is your number?
And it's a comedy. I'm going to go 22 points.
As God is my witness, I wrote down 15 before Brian said 15. So 15 is my number.
I've never heard of it. I don't think they generally look well on these types of comedies. I'm going 18.
And Brian with 15.
Is that your number?
Or were you just kidding?
Well, I kind of I said 15, but then
Whatever you want.
I said I'll call 42. I wrote
did wrote
42.
down-
He's
write
right
down
there.
42.
You should have stuck with 15. Unfinished Business is rotten at 11%.
You mentioned 11. You
Yeah,
mentioned-
that's my example. All right. Usually they'll give
Wait a second.
something to a comedy.
Is that the right poster?
Or-
Yeah.
Oh.
that's
They
unfair.
had
multiple
5
posters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It looked like something old timey.
All
That's-
right.
that's one of the
Brian is
Gotcha.
taking it. What was yours, Gina?
18.
All right. So you're in there. All right. Here we go.
All right, next up, we're going to focus on Michael Caine, who is appearing in the second of these films. And in 2002, he spoofed his Harry Palmer character when he appeared in Austin Powers in Goldmember.
Which one was
That's
that?
the
Which
third
okay.
Austin Powers movie.
That's the third one. All right.
Beyonce was in that.
I feel like the critics are probably not in love with that one, but how much were they not in love with that one? Probably run a little out of steam.
You guys all see this?
I
like
probably
part of it.
did. The problem is with these movies and with time, they start bleeding into the same movie. It didn't happen with Jaws, but with a lot of things where you start doing 3 and 4 of, you can't quite remember, was she in that one or is that one or is that the plot on that one? Never seen that one. I'm going to say critics out of love for this thing. Mike Myers always good in this role. So wanting to give Beyonce a little love, 53%.
Oh, we are very close. Here's my thought. Austin Powers 1, underrated. The critics were bad on it, were hard on it unnecessarily. It ended up being good. Austin Powers 2, the critics way overrated it, way overcompensated. It was a bad movie. Austin Powers 3, I like this movie. This is an underrated movie, but the critics overcorrected the other way. I said 55.
Felt like at this point nobody gave a shit, so I'm going 30.
30. All right, Brian.
I gave it a 30 as well.
Wow.
Ooh.
This is not a
Yeah.
bad movie.
Austin Powers in Goldmember is rotten at 54%.
Oh, Ryan.
God, we missed it.
Well, landed right in the middle. All right, Brian. I think this is probably about me and you.
Might be me and me.
I think. Well, it's. Yeah, I think I'm within striking
Okay.
distance. I'll put it
mine to
that
lose.
way. It's yours to lose.
All right,
That's what I
last
think.
film comes from another venerable actor who's appeared in this franchise, the great Morgan Freeman, who in 2007 appeared with Jack Nicholson in a road trip serial comedy about two guys knocking things off their bucket list. The movie is The Bucket List.
Nobody had ever heard of that term before this movie, by the way.
Who directed that? Rob Reiner?
Rob Reiner, yes, sir.
Okay.
Bucket list. All right, so people like the two performers. I think they like the premise, but I'm not sure if they're in love with the product. And also, I wonder if people expect a little more when they see these two on a poster, especially when the premise is actually pretty
2007?
solid. Yeah.
2007.
I'm
I
going.
didn't see this.
I saw
I didn't either.
bits and pieces of it. I don't think the critics liked it. I got probably a good 12, 14 points to make up on Brian here. No? Gary says not
More
that
like
much.
6.
All right.
Really? Well, how
I
about that?
told you I was in. Well, I thought I was. Brian's pretty good.
Adam
gotta
got
be-
out of the gate really low with 3.
It's
I'm
got to be a tight game.
it's
Adam
just-
and Brian, 6
Brian made a
points.
face when I said I'm in the neighborhood, so I figured
Yeah, I thought
he'd
that
done the math.
I thought you
on
were
it.
way off on one, but I missed
All
it
right,
wrong.
all right. So now I'm going to say rotten at 41.
I said 55 again. I don't remember anything about this.
65.
You guys are you're professionals at this. It's a great game, though, by the way. It's fun.
Watch it be 3.
I'm not good at it, but okay, I said 48.
Somebody has an exact match.
Oh.
The bucket list is rotten
Oh no.
at 41%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well done.
You get an extra 5-point deduction, Brian, if you can nail the thing.
41%.
The people loved it.
People liked it. 77%. Boy, that had to.
That might have won the game for you. I'm sure it did.
Well, listen to what the consensus is. It says
Seriously?
not even the earnest performances of the two leads can rescue the bucket list from its schmaltzy script.
That's what I
wrote
thought.
that?
Yes. Gary's making a face because
This guy.
I was 6 off going into that.
6
you
was
won.
the-
You won 55.
All right, what's the final tally?
Mr. Grazer bringing up the back of the bus with 76. Gina just below him at 74. And Brian coming in at 31.
Jeez.
And
And Ace Man 18.
18.
oh, big winner.
I raised my
Big-
game because Grazer's in the room, and I wanted to impress the man. He may want to call me for another meaningless meeting at some point,
Rotten or fresh.
and I want him to have the respect that's afforded to a performer who excels well in novelty guessing games. Yes, Brian, would that be fair?
Very fair. Well, very fair.